AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, sponsored Daniel Pipe's visit to Congregation B'nai Torah so that he could tell Jews that radical Islamism is a threat to the American way of life.
This form of Islam, called Islamism, is the transformation of faith into a totalitarian ideology. It turns Islam into Islamism. Islamism is like liberalism, and socialism, and capitalism, and communism, and fascism. It's an ism. It's a political ideology. It's a body of ideas about structuring society. Muslims of this outlook are a minority, but they are organized, voted, funded, and they have a purpose, they have a vision, they have an idea of what the world should look like. Islamism, although it has its roots going back to the origins of Islam in the 7th century, is a 20th century phenomenon. It is a modern answer to modern problems. And not coincidentally, it originated in the 1920s. The 1920s were a period in the West when totalitarianism, the idea that the state controls everything, was at its most, had its greatest strength. What with Mussolini in Italy, the rising Nazi power in Germany, Lenin and Stalin in the early years in the Soviet Union, it looked to many people that having the state in charge of everything was the way of the future. And that expectation reached the Muslim world, where particularly in Egypt and in India, thinkers and activists began to propose this totalitarian form of Islam. The Islamist ideology extends the religion in new directions. For example, 100 years ago, if you'd asked a Muslim about Islamic economics, shrug, there was no such concept. But what the Islamists did is they took the various precepts about the economy and they spun it into a whole system. There is now a substantial body of literature on Islamic economics. It's new. The Islamists see the state as a tool to achieve their goal. It is a radical utopian schema. Islam is the solution, is the one sentence abbreviation of the Islamist ideology. Whatever your question might be, Islam is the solution. It is an Islamic flavor to totalitarianism. It resembles fascism and communism more than any other form of religious extremism. It is striking to note that it's not losers, but it's winners in society who staff it. It has been influenced by the brightest minds of the generation. It is a modern phenomenon. It is, thirdly, first, it's devotion to the sacred law. Second, it's a political ideology. Third, it is a belief in a fundamental difference between the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world. Muslims are superior. Everything Islamic is superior to everything non-Islamic. The world is divided into two parts. Now, of course, there's a need to borrow, particularly in technology and military, technology most of all, medical technology. But there's a hatred and a fear of the outside world, and especially the United States, the West, and most especially the United States. There's an intolerance towards all non-Muslims, hatred, fear, and an ambition to dominate. The Islamists are not just content with ruling in, say, Morocco and Malaysia. They want to rule here as well. There's, fourthly, a drive to power, a drive to rule, to control the state, to control the subjects of the state, brutally to force out anyone who disagrees, to expand the power, and ultimately to have global hegemony. That is totalitarian Islam.
In an interview after his speech, Mr. Pipes said most mosques in America are headed by dangerous radical Islamists.
Let me ask you, your topic for this evening was titled what?
Radical Islam and the war on terror.
And how confident are you that the people who hear your talk are able to distinguish between what you call radical Islamists and Islam?
It's a challenge to make the distinction. Part of what I try to do is help people understand what the distinction is, but it's not an easy one. And a lot of mistakes are made in trying to make that distinction, including by me.
How would you characterize what you find as far as Islam in America and leadership in the mosques?
Most of the Islamic leadership in the United States is Islamist, is radical.
And how are you making that distinction? What is the measure you're using for that?
I'd say most of them are not willing to fit into this existing context but want to change it. In other words, not accepting the Constitution but want the Quran.
And do you think that this is a threat within America?
I do.
And what should people be doing about it?
Should understand it and reject it.